Thanksgiving was supposed to feel warm. I hoped this year would be different. But once again, I was the one pushed aside, and when my dad shouted at me, I only whispered inside, "Not this time." The table looked perfect, candles, glowing silverware lined up, laughter bouncing off the walls, yet somehow every smile seemed to stop short before reaching me. I had promised myself I'd stay calm this year no matter what. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if your family has ever underestimated you, subscribe, you'll want to see how this ends. Mom's sweet potato casserole sat right in the center, the dish she made every year. It used to taste like comfort. Tonight I couldn't even bring myself to lift a spoon. I had this strange feeling it would come back to me later in ways I didn't expect. The house was filled with the kind of southern charm outsiders would envy: heavy oak furniture polished until it gleamed, framed photos of smiling faces covering the walls, the scent of cinnamon candles mixing with roasted turkey. But beneath it there was a tension as sharp as glass. When I arrived with Jamie, the greetings were polite but thin. Olivia's eyes darted toward the head of the table, then back to me. "There's space near the kids' table," she said lightly, almost like a suggestion. I caught the faintest smirk when I pulled out the chair. No one spoke up, no one offered a different seat. So I sat there between giggling twins and my son, who looked up at me with wide eyes as though asking if this was normal. The adults' table glowed under the chandelier, glasses lifted high as Lucas shared a story about his promotion. My father nodded, proud, his hand heavy on Lucas's shoulder. When I tried to share something small, just a story about Jamie helping the neighbor carry groceries, the words floated into the room like a balloon no one wanted. They hung there for a moment, then deflated in silence. Forks scraped plates, glasses clinked, and the conversation turned back to Lucas as if I'd never spoken. Jamie pushed a toy truck back and forth on the rug under the table, his shirt already stained with cranberry sauce. I smiled faintly at his focus, the way he seemed immune to the chill around us. Across the room, Olivia leaned close to Lucas, whispering something that made him laugh out loud. I folded my napkin tight between my hands, pressing until my knuckles whitened. For years, I had told myself to endure, to keep showing up for the sake of tradition. But that night, with the candles flickering and the casserole untouched in the middle, I thought maybe this is the year I finally say something. Dad cleared his throat, his voice carrying above the chatter. He lifted his glass high, praising Lucas for his hard work and success at the bank. Everyone clapped. I did too, but my hands felt heavy as if applauding from far away. Not once did his eyes drift toward me. Mom hovered nervously, fussing over plates, her wine glass trembling just enough that I noticed. She caught my glance and quickly looked away. Her silence was louder than words, like an unspoken rule we both had learned long ago: don't make things harder. The twins shrieked with laughter at their private jokes, spilling juice across the polished tablecloth. Olivia only smiled, proud of their chaos. I handed her a napkin from the side, but she didn't meet my eyes. I tried to smile to steady my breath. Jamie crawled under the table to retrieve his truck, his small face glowing in the candlelight as he handed it back to me. His innocence reminded me why I kept showing up, why I swallowed the quiet cuts year after year. When I looked around, everyone else seemed absorbed in their own world. Lucas scrolling on his phone, Olivia adjusting her bracelet, Dad staring at his plate with that familiar sternness. I realized then that no matter what I did, no matter what I achieved outside these walls here, I would always be the one who didn't belong. I set my fork down gently, the sound sharp in the silence of my own head. The casserole in the center remained untouched, just like me. And as the fire cracked behind us, I thought again, maybe this was the year I'd stop waiting for their approval. The laughter around the table grew louder, but every note cut like glass. Dad's face tightened with each sip of wine, and I remembered Mom's soft whisper earlier in the kitchen, "Don't take it personally." The words rang now like a warning I should have listened to. Lucas leaned back, his voice booming as he described the bonus he'd earned and the trip he and Olivia were planning. Olivia added details, her voice sweet and deliberate. "The twins can't wait for Paris." The room hummed with approval, forks raised mid-air, eyes bright. I tried to join in, offering a small story about Jamie helping our neighbor. My words floated into the air, fragile, waiting for someone to catch them. They fell flat. Dad set his fork down hard, the sound echoing louder than it should. "Stop wasting time with your nonsense," he muttered. The conversation skipped past me, seamless, as though I hadn't spoken at all. Jamie kept pushing his truck under the table, bumping against my shoe. I bent down to hand it back, forcing a smile so he wouldn't see the sting in my chest. Above, the adults were still laughing, their voices swelling, my silence growing heavier. When Olivia passed out small gift bags, each child squealed with delight. Mine sat unopened, still tucked neatly beside my chair. Dad's eyes landed on it, and he chuckled with a sharp edge. "Maybe you should start earning before you start giving." The words hung in the air. Olivia looked down quickly. Lucas cleared his throat, and Mom fussed with the wine glass again. I sat still, my hands steady in my lap, my face calm. But inside, something shifted. Dad leaned back in his chair, his voice rising over the clatter of plates. "You embarrass us, Camille. A single mother with nothing to show. Do you think this family needs your pity gifts?" His words cut sharper than any knife at the table. The fire cracked behind him, filling the silence that followed. Lucas stared at his untouched mashed potatoes lips, pressed tight as if he wanted to say something, but swallowed it back. Olivia shifted in her seat, her bracelet clinking against the glass she held too tightly. Mom twisted her napkin in her lap, eyes fixed down, refusing to meet mine. I lowered my gaze, letting his words settle around me. My hands stayed folded, my face still. I had heard this tone before, the authority that expected no answer, but this time my silence carried weight. Jamie froze his fork, hovering above his plate, his big eyes darting from me to his grandfather. The air grew heavier with each second of silence. I didn't argue, I didn't plead. I simply breathed, steady and slow. For a moment, it seemed the whole house was listening to the tension, to the quiet that pressed harder than any shout. Then Dad's voice thundered again, louder. Final, "Get out." No one spoke, no one moved, only the sound of the fire popping and the faint drip of wine running down Mom's glass. My heart beat steady calm in the storm. Something inside me had already begun to change. The room froze. Forks hung mid-air, glasses half lifted. Even the twins fell quiet. Dad's words still echoed, "Get out," as if the walls themselves were carrying his anger. I pushed my chair back slowly, the scrape of wood against wood louder than any shout. My legs felt steady, my breath controlled. I folded my napkin, neatly laid it across the table, and whispered a single word, "All right." Jamie's small hand reached for mine, his toy truck slipping from his fingers onto the rug. The soft thud filled the silence. I bent, picked it up, and placed it gently in his palm. His eyes met mine, wide with fear, but I smiled just enough to steady him. We stood together. The fire crackled behind Dad, its glow sharp against his red face. Mom's glass trembled, wine spilling into her lap unnoticed. Olivia's lips parted like she might speak, but no sound came. Lucas stared down, shoulders hunched as though shrinking from the weight in the air. I turned toward the hallway, each step measured, heels tapping against the floor. At the door, I paused, my eyes drifting toward the family photos lining the wall, smiling faces, birthdays, graduations. I had been in those frames, but never truly in their picture. My phone buzzed in my hand. The screen lit up with numbers, reminders of every payment I had quietly made, the mortgage, the car repairs, Lucas's loans. My thumb hovered for only a moment before I began canceling one by one. Transfers stopped, accounts frozen, a quiet act no one in the room could see yet, but the shift inside me was unmistakable. I slipped the phone into my purse and adjusted Jamie's coat. His small fingers squeezed mine tighter. I gave the room one last glance, not in anger, not in desperation, but in finality. My silence was my answer. No one moved. Dad's hand still hovered above the table, his finger pointed mid-air as if his command hadn't landed the way he intended. The silence pressed down heavier than his voice had ever been. I guided Jamie toward the door, each step deliberate. The cool draft from the porch slipped in as I opened the front door, brushing my face like a reminder of what waited beyond. Behind me, I heard the faint clink of a fork hitting a plate, the only sound anyone dared to make. I stopped at the threshold, my back straightened. I didn't turn to argue, didn't plead for understanding. Instead, I pulled my phone from my purse again. The screen glowed, lighting my face in the dim entryway. With a steady thumb, I finalized what I had begun: mortgage gone, allowances gone, car payments gone. Their world built quietly on my sacrifices shifted with each tap. I didn't announce it. I didn't need to. The weight in my chest lifted, replaced with something sharper, cleaner freedom. I slipped the phone back into my purse and met Jamie's eyes. "It's okay," I murmured, smoothing his jacket collar. He nodded, too young to fully grasp, but old enough to feel the change. I stepped into the night air. The November chill stung my cheeks, but it felt bracing, not cruel. Behind me, the house stood still, every window glowing warm but empty to me now. For the first time, I realized their silence wasn't my burden, it was theirs. The door swung shut behind us, the click echoing like a final verdict. The night air wrapped around me as Jamie and I walked down the steps, the gravel crunching beneath our shoes. My car sat under the streetlight, a thin layer of frost already forming on the windshield. I opened the door for him, and he climbed in without a word, his small hands folding into his lap. The quiet between us wasn't heavy, it was steady like the calm after a storm. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The radio clicked on low, playing a Christmas carol that made the irony almost laughable. I turned it off. I didn't need music. The sound of the heater humming and Jamie's soft breathing was enough. As I pulled away from the house, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. Through the curtains, I could still see shapes moving, my family huddled around a table that no longer belonged to them. They didn't chase me. They didn't call out. For once, they were the ones left speechless. The road stretched ahead, dark and unbroken. I felt my hands steady on the wheels, stronger than they had been in years. Each mile put more distance between me and the weight of their judgment. Jamie leaned his head against the window, the reflection of the streetlights flickering across his face. "Where are we going, Mom?" he whispered. "Home," I said simply. No explanations, no detours, just the truth I had waited too long to claim. I knew the beach house would be waiting, the ocean steady and endless. It wasn't just a house, it was proof that I had built something real, something untouchable, even when no one else believed in me. Tonight it wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing myself, about showing Jamie that silence can carry more strength than shouting ever could. The tires hummed against the road, and for the first time in years, I felt the hum match the rhythm of my own heartbeat. The highway thinned into quiet streets as we reached the edge of town. Street lamps cast long shadows across the pavement, and every turn felt like shedding another layer of the past. By the time we pulled into the driveway of my beach house, the ocean's steady roar was already in my ears. Jamie stirred awake when the tires crunched against the gravel. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and then smiled when he saw the familiar outline of the house. "We're here," he whispered, almost like it was a secret, only we knew. I carried in our overnight bags, the salt air rushing through the open door, as if welcoming us back. Inside, the house was warm, and still sunlight stored in the wooden floors, the vast windows framing the midnight tide. Jamie ran straight to the back porch, his laughter cutting through the darkness as he pointed at the waves rolling under the moonlight. I followed him out, standing at the railing. The ocean spread wide and endless before us, each wave erasing the sting of my father's words, the years of being dismissed and overlooked. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, no doubt another call from Charleston, but I didn't look. Not tonight. Instead, I wrapped a blanket around Jamie's shoulders and kissed the top of his head. His hair smelled faintly of peppermint shampoo and sea air. He leaned into me, and together we watched the horizon. Behind me, the house stood tall, not just as shelter, but as proof. I wasn't the weak link they had cast aside. I was the one who had carried the weight, built the empire, and chosen finally to walk away. When Jamie yawned and whispered, "Good night, Mom," I smiled, holding him close. "Good night, love," I replied, my voice steady. As we stepped back inside, I let the door close behind us. The latch clicked softly like punctuation at the end of a chapter. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. Sometimes the loudest truth is found in silence, A closed door, a steady breath, a glance that no longer seeks approval. Respect isn't begged, for it's lived. And when you finally claim your own place, the world has no choice but to see you.